Hello, welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. Sunday afternoon is a lazy time full of freedom, but for some reason it also seems to inspire deep melancholy in many people. I guess feeling a little down about the approach of Monday is understandable, but why waste the free time you have left by sinking into sentimental ennui? It's a very Japanese thing. Because of my occupation, I've made a lot of friends overseas, where they tend to enjoy their days off without any of the gloom. To quote, "Why think about that crap when there's partying to do?" Probably as a result of spending so much time with those guys, I'm not the type who gets depressed or wistful on my days off. Awesome. But among my classmates at this school, there seem to be a few who suffer from the typical Japanese sweet weekend blues. I can understand the theory, but it's honestly pretty hard to empathize. Makina practically skips down the road, playing with a strange keychain. At a glance, that looks like a pretty plain little figurine. Is that thing really as rare as all that? Tuna Fish Man again. I've got to keep an eye on that one. I've been training my body as I usually do on the weekends, but Makina persistently hung around, pestering me to take her to the shopping district by the station. So here we are. Lately, the girl's been furtively buying toys like this whenever she goes out with me, probably because Amane gets mad when she wastes too much money on stupid crap. Don't mention this to Amane, she'll get cranky at me for encouraging her bad habits. Throw a line from some daytime soap opera at me, will you? Amane really needs to stop watching that crap. No wonder she sounds like a 50-year-old. What, me? Having assumed the bad influence of the dirty old lady, Makina was responsible for that line. I'm flustered to find the finger pointed at me instead. Makina narrows her eyes to slits and turns to me with a smirk. Ugh. Apparently quite pleased about having cut me down to size, Makina cheerfully jogs on ahead of me. Amane and the others did say that my behavior has been influencing Makina, but hearing it outright from the girl herself is a bit of a shock. Seems I really do need to watch my step. I don't get it. In the workplace, I was considered something of a moral exemplar. Makina suddenly stops a few steps ahead of me and points down the street. 100 meters or so ahead. There's something unusual enough to halt even Makina's momentum. In front of Mishima Cave Station, a cordon of jet black luxury cars have blocked off the road where the local buses usually stop. 10 odd men wearing suits mill about the area, talking in cell phones, restlessly checking their watches, or discussing something in small groups. For Yakuza, they're too like R. They don't have the intimidating, aggressive body language characteristic of gangsters. That said, this bunch aren't exactly inviting either. Most people would probably give them just as wide a berth. Don't know, but whoever they are, they're not anyone we want to get involved with. If they were friendly, respectable guys, they wouldn't block the road in such a nakedly intimidating way. I have been often seen Makina admit to being frightened like this. The girl's brave enough to grab snakes and centipedes with her bare hands, but something about that group seems to be bothering her quite strongly. She's obviously very uncomfortable. No reason to hang around here. Alright, I think it's time we head back. Instead of those guys, maybe you should be worrying about the homework you haven't even started? Yeah, don't just stand there. Let's get moving. As Makina holds her head in her hands and moans, I poke her in the back, urging her down the street toward the dorm. As she finally starts to walk, I shoot a quick glance back toward the station area. The group of men in business suits has come to attention, facing the ticket gate in apparent anticipation. Just now, a special express train seems to be pulling in. The station employees are running around making preparations of some sort. Some sort of big shot arriving? Makina looks up at me with a distinctly uneasy expression. It's nothing, don't worry. I ruffle Makina's hair gently and do my best to reassure her. We walk back to the school, still a little tense from our encounter with the mysterious group. When I enter the dorm with Makina, Sachi turns to greet us with her usual smile. It may be the weekend, but apparently she has decided to spend it scrubbing the hallways clean. As always, our maid's zeal for her duties knows no bounds. Yo. All of a sudden, I seem to have developed a ferocious headache. I press a hand to my forehead and close my eyes, but can't suppress a bitter grimace. Makina is one thing, but Sachi too. Where did we go so wrong? Don't go reading my inner monologue. What did you do to Sachi? This is your fault, I assume? What? Listen to me when I'm talking to you. Also, don't turn people into bad maids.
マキちゃんが言うんです。メイドたるもの、すべての面においての奉仕が必要だと。私はそれを聞いてハッとした思いでした。今までのメイドはあくまで上面をなぞっただけだったと気づかされたのです。
That's complete nonsense. Stop dancing on Makina's strings.
尽くしましょう。皆さんのためなら。それが命令とあらば、望まれるのならば、風見さんに性的なサービスをすることもやぶさかではございません。この小峰幸、いつでも捧げ。
I interrupt Sati's outrageous proposal, grabbing her firmly by the scruff of the neck and lifting her off the ground. With the other hand, I seize the miscreant who's been putting troublesome ideas in her head. My prey dangling from both hands, I bellow loudly enough for the entire dorm to hear. Get out here, Amane! Amane!
何よもう、お夕飯の準備してたとこなのに。
Amane appears in no time at all, still gripping a potato in one hand. She favors me with a look of undisguised annoyance. Hey, I'm a little concerned about something here. These girls are getting worse by the day. Might that possibly be my fault?
Huh? そりゃ、あんたのせいでしょ? 思いっきり。
I see. I had a sense such a crisis might be approaching after Makina's words earlier, but it's still something I'll be able to face. My fears made reality.
マキナもさっちゃんもユージが来て以来どんどん口も性格も悪くなっているというか。
上の口は悪くなろうとも下はこういい具合に。痛いのよさ DV なのよさ。
Holes.
とまあこうなったのも明らかにあんたのせい。
Yeah, she obviously picked up that nonsense just now from a man, and I guess that means me. Sorry, I've seen the error of my ways.
もうかなわんわ。
Amane answers in exasperated Kansai dialect. She seems to have concluded that my repentance isn't going to produce any real results, and I guess she's probably right. But I'm now firmly convinced that my behavior has been a bad influence on my two younger classmates. I'll try to tone down the guy talk and stick to nice harmless chats about pasta or whatever. Hey, Amane, we have one here that doesn't seem to have been influenced by me in the least. Can I use her as mitigating evidence?
なりうるとユージが思うんだったら説明の機会だけは与えるけど。
Sorry, impossible. I throw myself on the mercy of the court.
何よ。なんかよくわかんないけど、多分バカにされたのよね。そうよね。バカじゃないのよ。
はい、みちる様は大丈夫です。今の疑問の答えはともかくとして大丈夫です。
おもかくじゃねえ。あと根拠も何もないのに大丈夫とか言うな。
In this case, an external influencer too could pretty much only be a good thing. That said, the thought of Machiro remade in the image of Makina sends a cold shiver down my spine. We've got nothing but eccentrics in this storm as it stands. I'd really like to avoid adding that sort of hybrid super pass to the mix.
そういやなんか今日駅前におっかない車が山ほどいたのよさ。
Clinging to Amane, Makina reports the earlier events.
おっかないって何それ。車高が激低いとか、助手席に変なオブジェが回ってるとか、そんなん？
Nah, they weren't freaky scary like something I could see you driving.
ユージの中の私ってそういうキャラなの？ねえ。
そういうアマネーの乗りそうなおっかないじゃないのよさ。
これもあんたが悪いわよね、ユージ。
Sorry, I've seen the error of my ways.
で、どういうおっかないなの？その車ってのは。
黒塗り超デカデカしてた。窓も真っ黒だった。
え、窓も真っ黒だったら見えないじゃない、外が。
みちる様、スモークガラスです。
え、何それ？ガラスがいぶされてるの
Machiro, stop talking for a while.
なんでよ、スモークっていうぐらいだから合ってるでしょ。なんで違うのよ。あんた、スモークサーモンとかスモークチーズとか食べたことないの？なんかめんどくさい流れね。要するにエンチュリーとかリクサスとかその手の高級車ってことでしょ。
そうなのよさ。
あ、そっか、今日。ああ、あんたいつもあれが来るときって朝から寮の中にいたから大名行列のことを知らなかったのね。
大名行列、なんなのよさ。
Amane, I've been worried you might be the sort to stealthily hit the bottle in the kitchen when the kids' backs are turned, but things have progressed to the point of visual hallucinations.
だから人をよどみなくスルッとアル中にするな。黒塗り高級車の列を例えたんでしょ。わかるやろ、それぐらい。
We're buffeted with roars of Kansai-inflected rage. However, I've already tuned Amane out. I'm currently wondering about the one conspicuous absence from our group. By the way, I haven't seen Sakaki today. Is she out again?
ってユージってその辺のことも全然聞いてないの？
I don't know what stuff you're referring to. What does Sakaki's absence have to do with your alcoholism? Alcoholism.
アル中から離れろや。
今日はですね。
At my side, Sachi hesitantly begins to speak, but quickly falters to a stop. What should I not have asked?
いや、別にまずいってことでもないんだけどね。
For once, even Machiro has something of a restrained expression on her face.
今日、榊さんがいないのはあれよ。授業参観だから。
Her parents are visiting the school even though it's a Sunday?
日曜だからよ。
What?
大名行列でいらっしゃるのよ。気まぐれでね。
今回は電車で、そうですか。
それで駅の方へいらっしゃって。はい、わかりました。では予定通りですね。はい、由美子さんは寮におりますので学園にはいらっしゃらん。すみません、来客のようで。はいはい、では30分後に。はい、どうぞ。
Here I was, thinking the job of a principal consisted solely of signing off on paperwork. Seems I was mistaken. I owe you an apology.
ただ電話してたってだけで仕事してるって思われるとか、本当にバカにされてるとしか思えないんだけど。
Anyway, there's something I wanted to ask you about.
まあいいわ。とりあえずマナーとしてドアぐらい閉めてくれないかしら。
Whoops, sorry about that. After swinging the overly ornate door shut, I wander over to the espresso machine and pour out 2 cups of coffee. I set the cups down on the table, just the sort of dignified slab of wood you'd expect a raging giant monkey to fling dramatically through some window, then take my seat on a sofa.
自分の部屋並みに手慣れてきたわね。
The principal grumbles a bit at my confident movements, but nonetheless sits down across from me without being asked.
それで話っていうのは？
Amane told me there's a parent-teacher conference taking place today.
授業参観。ああ、なるほど。そういうことね。
I think you're aware, but it's the weekend. There are no classes for anyone to sit in on, and there shouldn't be any teachers here to have a conference with. Weird enough, but on top of it all, you're at the school for some reason.
休みの日なのにね。
Also, there was a clump of expensive jet black cars sticking out like a sore thumb around the station this afternoon. And finally...
最後に？
I haven't seen Sakaki all day. I don't know much of anything about her background, but... that aloof attitude makes me think her family environment is probably unusual. Judging from the way the others reacted, all of this seems to be connected. Am I on the right track?
そうさんたちは教えてくれなかったの？
It's a private matter after all. I didn't feel comfortable dragging it out of them, so I came over to get the story from a more official source.
So...
The principal lets out a single sigh and stands up from the sofa. Opening a desk drawer, she takes out a brochure, then returns and drops it on the desk in front of me. It's the familiar Mihama Academy admissions pamphlet.
これ、あなたがここに来た当初見せたわよね。
Yeah, although I just flipped through it, really. This sort of informational brochure is generally packed with thinly disguised advertising or obtuse legal disclaimers. Either way, it tends to involve a lot of flowery, empty phrases, not genuine facts and figures. I'm not twisted enough to find pleasure in picking out all the lies and half-truths I can find in this sort of thing. This pamphlet in particular was written about this truly bizarre academy of ours. I expect there's more lies than half-truths, and mostly pretty blatant ones at that.
ここもちゃんとは見ていないわよね。
Principal Tachibana flips the pamphlet open to the first page. Just as I'd expected, it's filled with pseudo-poetical sentences describing the school and its mission in highly exaggerated terms. Is there something in... The principal's pointing to the opposite page. On the upper half of the brochure, there's the words Principal Tachibana Chizuru, accompanied by a weirdly formal photo portrait. And then we have the chairman of the board of trustees, accompanied by a different name. Sakaki Michiaki. So this would be the principal nods deeply.
そうよ。
Oh.
榊道明氏。偶然同じ名字なんてありえないわよね。榊さんの父親よ。今日視察にお見えになるの。そろそろ時間に。榊道明氏についてあなたはどれぐらい知っているの？
As much as the next guy, no more. Haven't had any reason to look too deeply into him. Sakaki Michiaki is a name you'll find extremely frequently in the papers, magazines, and television news. The East Beach Express Group, owners of a rail network with a prominent line running along the east coast of the Kanto region. As this powerful corporate body's president, it's only natural that he's referenced in the media on a regular basis. On the surface, he's the head of one of the leading Japanese business conglomerates and an extravagant multimillionaire. And behind the scenes, he's a heartless tyrant, ruthlessly wielding brute force to perpetuate the aggressive expansion of his company's rail network. He doesn't hesitate to shatter the lives of those who stand in his way. In particular, there's a lot of talk about his borderline fraudulent tactics in acquiring land, apparently a legacy of the previous president. Under his leadership, the group has earned a friendly nickname, Eager Bandit Express. I'm really not particularly interested in that sort of gossip. The fact that I know his name anyway is a decent indication of just how much of an infamous celebrity this man is. Well, that's about the extent of my knowledge. I hope this is the part where you tell me I've gotten the wrong idea about the guy. The principal takes a brief sip of her coffee.
その噂通りの彼が時々気まぐれで娘のいるこの学園に視察ということでやってくるの。表面上は娘に会いに来てるってことになってるんだけど。
That's not the case.
会った試しがないわ。これまでに3回彼はここを訪問しているけどね。彼女、榊さんの方から会うのを拒絶しているのよ。
There a reason for that?
それを話すには、前にも言ったこの学園のできた経緯から話さないといけないわ。そもそも。いけない。そろそろいらっしゃるわ。
After stopping the alarm, the principal glances back at me.
今の 話また後ででもできるけど聞きたい？
No, I don't think that's a good idea. The man comes all the way out here to visit his daughter's school, then leaves without even meeting her. From that behavior, it's pretty clear the story of Mihama Academy's founding is directly connected to Sakaki's past and family circumstances, even if the principal doesn't spell it out for me. I don't think it would be right to hear anything more than this from a third party. Oh, excuse me. I'm sure it involves those complex reasons she has for being here that you were hesitant to talk about last time. That would mean you'd have to tell me things my classmate wants to keep to herself, and if you left the sensitive parts out, I'd end up with half an unpleasant story, which is just as bad.
意外にクラスメート思いなのね。
No, I'm just looking to avoid making my life more complicated than it needs to be. I stand up from the couch and begin to move toward the door.
榊さん、今日は多分寮の屋上にいると思うわ。
But before I can make my exit, the principal's words bring me to a halt.
さっきも言った通り、父親には会おうとしないのは彼女の方なんだけど、部屋にこもりきりで出てこなかったり、その時間だけ外に出ているというわけじゃないの。父親の来るときは決まって寮の屋上から下を見下ろして通り一遍の視察をする父親の姿を見ているわ。
And you're telling me this why?
他の誰も彼女のケアはしてあげられないのよ。あの通りの子だし、他の子たちも近づきにくいし、特に父親の来るときはピリピリしていて近寄りがたいから。その点、あなたは最近榊さんとも交流があるみたいだし。
I don't know where you got that information, but it must be a pretty shaky source. I'm not any closer to Sakaki than any of the others are. If anything, it's the opposite.
そうなの。あなただったら少しは榊さんのケアもしてあげられるかと思ったんだけど。
Act on the basis of wishful thinking and you'll never get anything done. More importantly, don't you have a VIP to roll out the red carpet for? I'll be leaving now. I sort of sensed this in our previous conversation as well, but the principal seems to be expecting some sort of convenient chemical reaction between me and the other students. Yes, I'm putting an effort toward creating something like a student life for myself, which means trying to maintain a basic standard of communication with my classmates. But if that were to cross the line, if I were to push my way into their private lives, there's no way it would end that well for anyone involved. After all, we're talking about people driven into something very close to an isolation facility. In the worst case scenario, pride could quite literally be a lethal mistake. If I ever get involved in their problems, it's only going to be when they reach out to me on their own initiative. Since Akaki hasn't shown any intention to do so, I'm not going to make the first move, and I'm convinced that she's the correct, that's the correct policy. Darn it, that principal never gives me anything but trouble.
そろそろいらっしゃる頃よね。
ひとまず寮の周りの掃除は一通り終わりましたが、
いつもさっちゃんがやってるように綺麗にしてれば何も言われやしないわよ。
挨拶とかした方がいいの？
やめといた方がいいと思うよ。あまり人のお父さんを悪く言いたくはないけど、正直いい気分にはならないと思う。あまねって由美子のお父さんに会ったことあるの？うちの父さん料理人じゃない？だからいろんなところと交流があってね。それでここに入る前に挨拶だけはしたんだけどさ。
あまりいい気分にはならなかったんですね。
なんかね、月並みな言い方だけど目が笑ってなかったんだよね、榊さんのお父さん。言葉だけは気持ち悪いぐらいに丁寧だったんだけど。にしてもひどいよね。会社があるのかもしんないけど、わざわざ選んで休日にやってきて、しかもそのまま帰っちゃうんでしょ。まあポーズでやってることだからね。
あまり好きじゃない大人の匂いがするのよさ。
だね。まあうちらに会いに来るわけじゃなし、たかだか1時間かそこらなんだからおとなしくしとこ。そういやユージはどこ行ったの？さっき学園長のところに行くって言ったきり帰ってきてないけど。そういやどこ行ったのかな。
ああ。
理事長、お久しぶりです。
Oh, hello.
前に都内でお会いしてから2ヶ月。いや、3ヶ月ぶりぐらい。
今日はまたどういった理由でいらっしゃったのですか？
自分の建てた学園に来る理由がいちいち必要なのかね。
いえ、そんなわけでは。
一体の視察のついでだよ。厄介なものを押し付けたことへの償いとして、私自身がこうして現地を訪れないことには示しがつかんからな。
そうですか。
あまり時間もない。いつも通りのルートで進めてくれ。
一応視察のコースはこちらで決めていたのですが。
いつも通りのルートで結構。別の場所を見る必要はないし、時間を割くなどもってのほかだ。
はい。
では行こうか。
なんかこうちょっと扱いの面倒な発電所を押し付けられた感じなのよね。
ここの町にとっての学園がですか？
平時だったらどうということはないんだけど、仮に何かがあった場合、住んでる人の不安感ってのはそりゃすごいと思うわよ。
失礼よね、人をそんな扱いしちゃって。
でもそうされるような理由みんなにもあるじゃない。
それは
まあだからこそのこの視察なのよね。何も問題ないですよ、大丈夫ですよってアピールのために時々こうして大ボスがやってきて適当にうろうろして帰っていく。
かいわれやほうれん草を食べるのと同じなのよさ。
だよね。つかそうでもしないといつ学園の排斥運動とか起こってもおかしくないもん。
私たちやっぱり邪魔なんだ。
そうじゃないって。だからこそみんな町では頑張っていい子にしてるんだし、こうやってボスが来た時もひっそりとおとなしくしてるんだから。でもまあ一番辛いのは榊さんよね、やっぱり。
そうですよね。
Huh.
校舎から
Why does she look like a man? As soon as I opened the door to the rooftop, I'm met with a piercing glare. Much like the last time we met here, Sakaki is standing straight as an arrow near the edge of the roof, her hair dancing in the sea breeze. But unlike last time, there's undisguised hostility in her eyes. Yo! Holding eye contact, I answer her sharp gaze with a light greeting. She's clearly on her guard, so I stop my approach with a good distance still separating us.
前と同じ理由かしら。
What are you talking about?
ここに来た理由よ。偶然なのかどうか聞かせて。
The reason I'm here, of course, is that I was slightly worried about a certain woman I knew to be brooding all by herself. Thanks to that meddlesome principal's unsolicited tip, I knew Sakaki's location, and having been handed that information, the idea of leaving her up here alone started to feel strangely unpleasant. Of course, if I told Sakaki the plain truth in this situation, there's no doubt she'd aggressively reject my concern. A coincidence, of course. I did hear today was a slightly special day, though. So instead, I offer up a vague mixture of lies and truth. The ball's in Sakaki's court now.
そう。ならばそっとしておいて。話しかけないでちょうだい。
Don't worry, I didn't start the conversation last time either, remember?
そうだったわね。
Sakaki breaks her sidelong glare in my direction, her gaze returning to the ground below. Since the dorm is only a 3-story building, the people below are clearly visible from our vantage point on the rooftop. Just now, the principal is leading a man in an expensive-looking dark gray suit and what seems to be his entourage in our direction. Sakaki purses her lips tightly. As the approaching figure draw closer, she pulls herself back from the edge of the roof just far enough that she can't be seen from the ground. Her placement clearly conveys her desire to observe and her absolute rejection of being observed in return. There's a voice from below. I casually glance toward the sound. The man in the expensive suit has a fake smile plastered across his face. His laughter is utterly hollow, to the point that it's actually physically unpleasant to hear. It's the forced laugh of a person who hasn't known real amusement in a very long time. Sakaki flinches at the sound. She opens her mouth ever so slightly, takes a few small breaths, then closes it again. Her sharp gaze is clearly focused on the man in the expensive suit. She watches the man fixedly as he struts along confidently next to the principal. It's the expression of someone sizing up an old and bitter enemy, but there's also something like sadness there. We haven't been formally introduced or anything, but it seems safe to say the man in the suit is her father, Sakaki Michiaki. Compared to the man in the pamphlet, he seems slightly scrawnier, but I'm willing to bet that's just the result of some subtle photographic retouching by SPR people. Yumiko simply stares down at him in silence. Those aren't, or shouldn't be, the eyes of someone looking at their father. That said, they're not full of murderous rage either. Her eyes are just sad and empty.
これで一通り回りましたが。
At the principal's words, the group stops just a little distance from the dormitory.
ああ、ではこれで終わりにしよう。が、その前に。
He turns to his side, fixing the principal with a cold-eyed stare.
念のために聞くが、あれはアバンと言ってるんだろう。
はい。どうしてもと。
With a single irritated grunt, the chairman turns on his heel and begins to walk off. He strides toward the front gate with his party, exuding overbearing haughtiness to the end. He doesn't look back. Sakaki stares, unblinking, at his quietly retreating figure. There's no particular emotion on her face now. She simply watches until the end. When his distant figure reaches the school building and finally passes completely from view, Sakaki drops both hands to the iron rail, leans forward, and heaves a heavy sigh. She stays that way for a long time, looking straight down at the concrete beneath her feet. The sea breeze picks up after a long interruption. Salty air rushes past us from behind. Sakaki's long hair and school uniform flap noisily in the wind. When the gust dies down, there's a moment of perfect silence. Sakaki mutters a few words to the concrete beneath her feet. There's a hint of weakness in her voice. That's right. I offer a concise reply. I'm not tactless enough to poke my nose into other people's business out of mere curiosity. I think we've been over this. I'm not going to ask you anything, but if you have something you want to talk about, I'm willing to listen. I don't know what Sakaki really wants from me right now. But I think her words pretty clearly indicate that she was hoping I'd ask her something. Of course, that doesn't mean I now have free rein to barrage her with questions. That isn't why I'm here in the first place. Why won't you see your father? Is there a reason you're in this school? What exactly do you think about Sakaki Michiaki? There are plenty of things I'm interested in knowing, but it's not like dragging the answers out of her is going to change anything. that explaining things would offer Sakaki some relief, as her classmate unwilling to ask those questions. But as long as I don't know that for sure, throwing my curiosity at her would exceed good-natured meddling and land solidly in the territory of outright prying. Sorry if you find my reasoning unpleasant. This is just my personality.
不快ではないわ。少なくともこれまで私の周りにいた人間とはあなたは違うみたいね。
From Sakaki's expression, I can understand she doesn't mean that in a negative way. Her usual harsh, prickly aura of rejection seems to have softened somewhat.
私が話したいと思った時は聞いてくれるのかしら。
Like I just said, talk all you want. I'm not going to stop you.
そうね。分かったわ。
Sakaki pushes herself away from the railing and walks across to the door.
それじゃあまた。
Yeah. Sakaki's slender hand throws the door open with surprising firmness. As soon as she's inside, it closes solidly behind her. The wind picks up again, gusting strongly across the rooftop. A few stray grains of sand from the nearby beach blow into my face. Guess I'll head back myself. I'm not going to pretend to understand Sakaki right now. But if my arrival at this school, this dorm, my entrance into her life, can end up working to her advantage somehow, I think I'd like to make that happen. Simple as that. Right now, the fact that I'm living this carefree, peaceful life fills me with guilt. It's a burden I carry with me every waking moment. If I can lighten that load of self-condemnation slightly by doing some half-done pseudo-counselor volunteer work, then there's something in it for me as well. Of course, the way I'm thinking about this in such a calculating, mercenary way has a whole new layer of guilt on top of it all. On second thought, I don't know if I should be counseling anyone. Slowly descending the stairs, I mutter quietly to myself. Sinking deeper into a Sunday afternoon melancholy that has nothing to do with the approaching work week, I continue my little soliloquy for some time. Wow, she is fascinating. I'm excited to learn about what's going on with her. Bye.